So imagine you are running like a classic brick and mortar storefront. You walk up to the door with your key at 9 in the morning, you flip the sign to open, and you just spend the next 8 hours helping people.
Right, yeah. A very traditional setup.
Exactly. And then at 5 o'clock, you lock up, you flip the sign to closed, and you go home. I mean, that is the rhythm of work we've basically accepted for a century.
Well, because it matches human biology perfectly.
Yeah.
There is a clear beginning, a middle, and a really definitive, restful end to the day.
Yeah, but if you're listening to this, you probably aren't operating in that reality anymore. I mean, think about your current environment.
Yeah.
Maybe you're managing a small e-commerce brand or a growing nonprofit or even scaling a solo consulting firm.
Which is a whole different ballgame.
It really is. You and your team are still biologically wired for that 40-hour work week, but you are competing in a global market that demands your business be fully operational 168 hours a week. Like every single hour of every single day.
Yeah, the math on that just doesn't work out.
It simply doesn't work unless you change the equation entirely. So today, we are pulling together some really fascinating research for this deep dive to figure out how small teams are actually solving this. We've got academic analyses on digital co-founders. We're looking at strategic guides on multilingual customer support.
And that huge sociological study on the 4-day work week, too.
Yes, exactly. Okay, let's unpack this because the numbers are kind of wild.
Yeah, to really grasp the severity of this math problem, we have to look at the behavioral data in our sources. The disconnect between when humans, actually want to work and when customers demand answers, it's just widening rapidly. Like a massive 35% of support requests now arrive completely outside of standard business hours.
Wow, over a third.
Over a third.
Yeah.
And the real complication is that modern consumers expect a response within 4 hours. That's regardless of when they hit send.
So wait, if someone emails your business at 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
they are checking their phone at 7 in the morning, expecting a fully resolved issue.
Exactly. Which, traditionally left businesses with only one lever to pull, right? Human resourcing.
Just hiring more people.
Right. If you wanted 24/7 coverage, you had to hire massive teams of shift workers. But for a small business or a grassroots nonprofit, staffing humans for round-the-clock coverage, it's a fast track to bankruptcy.
Oh, totally. The budget just breaks.
It breaks entirely. But the fascinating thing the research shows is that the solution to a 168-hour demand is not actually making humans work more hours. The data points in the exact opposite direction.
Right, and this brings us to that massive study led by Boston College. It is such a counterintuitive piece of research.
It really is.
They tracked nearly 3,000 employees across 141 companies in 6 different countries, so from the U.S. to New Zealand. And they were testing a 4-day work week. And this is the kicker, they didn't reduce pay. They just chopped human working hours down to 32.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the outcome of that specific constraint. The prevailing assumption in traditional management is that reducing hours causes productivity to just crash.
Or stress to skyrocket.
Exactly. Because people are frantically trying to cram 5 days of output into 4 days. But the empirical data showed stress levels actually fell. Burnout dropped significantly.
Wow.
Yeah, staff turnover decreased. And crucially, these companies maintained, or in some cases even increased their revenue.
Okay, wait, so businesses need to be awake 168 hours, but humans only want to work 32?
Yep.
That's like trying to run a 24/7 diner, but all the chefs go home at 5 p.m. I mean, how is that physically possible without the whole operation collapsing?
Well, the collapse only happens if you keep relying on human effort as your primary engine. Like, the key finding from the Boston College study wasn't just that people, enjoyed having Fridays off.
Which I'm sure they did.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
But the reduction in hours acted as a ruthless forcing function. It forced these companies to fundamentally redesign how work gets done. They realized they just couldn't survive on human endurance anymore.
They had to build something better.
They had to transition to better systems. To serve a 168-hour market with a 32-hour human team, you have to completely disconnect the business's operational hours from the human's waking hours. You basically shift the front door of your organization from a person to an always-on system.
So when we talk about shifting to a system, we should probably clarify for the audience that we are way past those basic rules-based chatbots from a few years ago.
I'll let years pass them.
Right. We are talking about modern large language models that are capable of multi-turn reasoning and like complex API orchestration.
Yeah, we're talking about autonomous digital infrastructure.
Yeah.
These systems aren't just, looking for the word refund and spitting out a link to a policy page.
Like the old bots used to do.
I
So
know.
frustrating.
Exactly. Modern systems are reading the entire history of a customer's interaction. They're checking back-end inventory or billing databases in real time, and then they're drafting highly personalized, context-aware resolutions. And furthermore, they're actually analyzing the syntactic structure of the incoming message to detect emotion.
Wait, really? How does that actually work mechanically? I mean, how do lines of code know if a customer is angry versus just asking a normal question?
It comes down to sophisticated sentiment analysis. The system isn't just reading the words, right? It's measuring what we call punctuation velocity, capitalization density, and specific semantic clusters.
Okay, what does that actually look like?
Well, if a customer uses short, clipped sentences packed with urgency markers, so words like unacceptable or immediately, or if there's a sudden spike in exclamation points, the algorithm scores that interaction with a really high frustration index.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. If a customer is genuinely upset, say, their billing is messed up and they're out a significant amount of money, doesn't getting an instant cheerful AI response run the risk of just pouring gas on the fire?
Oh, definitely.
Because you can't automate empathy when trust is broken.
And you shouldn't try. You've hit on the exact boundary line of automation right there. The sources are very clear that you shouldn't try to fake humanity in those moments. When that frustration index spikes, the system is programmed to instantly escalate the ticket to a human agent.
Ah, okay.
And it appends a summary of the issue, so the human can jump in with immediate, genuine empathy. But for the other 80% of routine traffic, customers prioritize speed and convenience over speaking to a human. They
Right.
just care about the outcome.
Right. And we see a brilliant application of this in the nonprofit sector data. Like, think about organizations managing blood
That's
donations.
a perfect example.
They are deploying these AI systems right on their front pages to handle initial eligibility inquiries. So, someone might be wondering at midnight if their recent travel history disqualifies them from donating.
And they want an answer right then.
Exactly. Instead of waiting until Monday morning for a human to email them back, by which point that momentary impulse to volunteer is totally gone, the system cross-references the medical criteria and answers them instantly.
It handles that massive volume of routine triage. And that right there is a perfect example of the hybrid model. The system captures the demand when the human team is asleep. Then the human team wakes up to a curated list of high-level engagements, complex donor relationships, and those edge cases that actually require their 32 hours of focused energy.
That makes so much sense.
But the moment you open your operational window to 168 hours, you invite a totally new structural challenge because you are no longer just capturing traffic in your own time zone.
Right. If your digital doors are open at 3 a.m. your time, it is 9 a.m. somewhere else in the world. Operating around the clock inherently means crossing borders. And the statistics in the research on this are honestly staggering. Like 76% of consumers prefer brands that offer support in their native language.
Yeah, and the inverse of that metric is what should really keep founders awake at night. A full 29% of companies report losing business simply due to language barriers and misunderstandings.
Nearly a third.
Yeah. Bilingual coverage used to be viewed as this, like luxury reserved for massive multinational corporations with localized call centers. Today, it is a baseline structural requirement. It is purely a market share issue.
Yeah.
If you cannot converse in your customer's native language at 2 in the morning, your competitor system absolutely will.
I completely get that. But, and maybe this is just me, relying on raw machine translation without a human check feels incredibly risky.
Well, it used to be.
Because it's like going to a foreign country, confidently reading a direct translation of a menu out loud and realizing you just ordered a plate of napkins.
Yeah, exactly.
It destroys trust instantly. You need to know the difference between a formal and informal tone or, when a literal translation makes absolutely no sense in cultural context.
Right, and that nuance is exactly why modern LLM translation is fundamentally different from those old one-to-one dictionary lookup tools. Modern systems don't just map words to words.
Okay, what do they do?
They map concepts into a massive, high-dimensional mathematical space called a latent space. So when a query comes in via Japanese, for instance, the system maps the underlying meaning of that query, processes the logic, and then generates the culturally appropriate Spanish or English equivalent.
Oh, wow.
Think of it like a highly skilled jazz musician transposing a complex melody into an entirely different key on the fly, rather than a computer just blindly swapping notes.
That's a great way to look at it. But the human in the loop is still vital, right? I mean, our sources emphasize that language isn't just math. It is deeply tied to brand identity.
Absolutely. The AI provides the real-time speed and the scale to handle 20 languages simultaneously. But your human experts ensure those translations actually resonate with your specific brand voice.
Right.
This is why cultural training for your human support staff remains so vital, even when they are augmented by AI translation tools. Because they need the cultural competence to audit the system and adjust the prompt guidelines if the tone starts drifting.
Which brings up a very real logistical nightmare for you, the listener. It all sounds incredible in theory, but when you are a small nonprofit director or, a busy solo founder, setting all of this up sounds like a full-time job in itself.
Oh, it really does.
How do you find the time to build this sophisticated, multilingual emotion detecting system when you are literally drowning in the day-to-day operations?
Well, the most critical warning across all our strategic guides is avoiding the automation trap.
The automation trap.
Yes, the fastest way to fail is to try and automate a broken manual process. If your current method for onboarding a client or answering a ticket is chaotic, automating it just creates a highly efficient disaster.
Right, it just does the bad thing faster.
Exactly. So small teams must start with a rigorous workflow audit.
Okay, what does that actually look like for a small team? Like brass tacks?
It means sitting down and mapping out the friction. Are you manually copying data from an email, pasting it into a spreadsheet, and then manually triggering a welcome packet? All right, we all are. But that is a rule-based bottleneck. You have to document that process, fix the logical gaps, and then you introduce the system. The academic research paper in our stack outlines a brilliant framework for this, specifically tailored for solo founders. They call it deploying a digital co-founder.
I love that framing because it shifts the perspective from just using a software tool to actually collaborating with an entity.
It really does change how you interact with it.
And the researchers map this out in 3 very realistic stages that don't require like an engineering degree. So let's dig into stage 1, imagination shaping.
Okay, so when you are a solo founder or running a tiny team, your biggest deficit isn't always hands-on keyboards. Sometimes it's the lack of a sounding board. You don't have a boardroom full of strategists.
Right, it's just you in your office.
Exactly.
Right.
So in imagination shaping, you use the AI to test hypotheses. You feed it your messy, diffuse vision, and you ask it to structure your value propositions or, poke holes in your target audience assumptions.
It helps you clarify your thinking before you even build anything, which leads perfectly into stage 2, reality testing. The researchers talk about running what they call nano experiments. Give me an example of what that looks like on the ground.
So a nano experiment is about exposing an idea to the real world with minimal energy expenditure. Let's say, instead of spending 3 months building out a massive new service offering, you collaborate with your digital co-founder to instantly generate a targeted landing page and a basic automated email sequence.
Oh, I see.
You run a small amount of traffic to it. You are basically testing the market's appetite without committing your team's limited bandwidth to a full build.
And once you actually find a signal, like once the market says, yes, we want this, then you move to stage 3, reality scaling. This is where you actually hand over the heavy lifting. The AI takes over the routine scheduling, the initial data capture, and, the extraction of action items from your chaotic inbox.
You stabilize the business not by hiring a whole new department, but by orchestrating these intelligent routines. But I have to say, getting over that initial hump requires a massive psychological pivot. You have to stop viewing growth purely as a human resourcing problem.
Right, because for 100 years, the logic of business scaling was totally linear. Linear growth required linear hiring. If you land 10 more customers, you need to hire 1 more agent. If you land 100 more customers, you need 10 more agents. It was this fixed 1-to-1 ratio.
And that linear ratio is the anchor dragging down small businesses today. Moving from the mindset of, I need to hire more, to I need smarter infrastructure is how you break it. When your front of house is a well-orchestrated system, you completely transform fixed labor costs into variable, highly elastic processing power.
Let's ground this in a real scenario for the listeners. Say a small digital business has a sudden, massive viral spike. A video takes off, and instead of their usual 50 inquiries a day, they suddenly have 5,000 inquiries hitting their inbox overnight.
A good problem, but still a problem.
Exactly. Under the old linear model, the human team wakes up to an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah. The inbox is overflowing, response times plummet from hours to days, and the team is instantly demoralized. But with smarter infrastructure, we see four massive operational benefits kick in simultaneously. The first one is hiring avoidance.
Right.
The system absorbs that spike of 5,000 inquiries instantly. The processing time remains exactly the same whether it's handling 10 requests or 10,000. You scale your operations without the immense burden of panic recruiting a temporary support team.
And the second benefit, which ties directly into a viral spike, is churn prevention.
Yes.
Like if a customer in Germany discovers your product during that viral moment at 2 a.m. their time, and they have a quick question about shipping, they aren't waiting 3 days for an answer. The multilingual system gives them an instant, accurate answer in German.
Which is huge.
Your frustration is zero, their impulse to buy is captured, and you protect that newly acquired revenue.
Exactly. And meanwhile, your human team experiences the third benefit, agent morale. Because instead of waking up to 5,000 repetitive questions about shipping policies, the human team logs in to find all that routine noise handled.
They don't have to deal with it.
Right. They're presented with the 50 complex, high-value interactions that the system intelligently escalated. They get to do what humans are actually good at: complex problem solving and nuanced relationship building.
It totally prevents that crushing burnout we talked about in the Boston College study earlier.
It really does. And the fourth dimension here is training efficiency. Because when that business does decide to thoughtfully expand their human team, those new hires aren't starting from scratch.
Right.
They are learning by reviewing the system's successful interaction logs, and they actually have a digital co-pilot providing real-time knowledge-based access while they learn the ropes.
And this concept of elastic variable resources isn't just for frontline support either. We are seeing small teams apply this exact same structural philosophy to their C-suite through fractional leadership.
That's a great connection to make.
Yeah, if you are replacing the rigid one-to-one ratio of customer service with a variable system, you can do the exact same thing with fractional executive talent.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Like a growing nonprofit might not be able to afford a full-time top-tier chief marketing officer, but they can bring in a fractional CMO for 10 hours a month to set the strategic direction and then use their digital infrastructure to execute the routine tasks of that strategy.
Wow.
It turns elite leadership from a rigid, full-time necessity into a highly adaptable asset. You pay for the precise strategic insight you need exactly when you need it.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's look at it like a manufacturing floor. Trying to scale your business by simply hiring more people is like trying to scale a factory by just cramming more manual laborers onto the assembly line.
It gets crowded.
Eventually, people bump into each other, the line jams, and everyone is just exhausted.
Yeah.
Shifting to smarter infrastructure means having the courage to step back, pause the line, and build a smarter conveyor belt. Because the new conveyor belt doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't get bored, and it lets your human workers step off the line to become the engineers who design and optimize the factory floor.
This raises an important question, though, regarding our identity in this new landscape. Like, what is the actual role of the human in the future of work?
That's the big question.
If the system handles the 168-hour global presence, the routine triage, and the multilingual translation, what is left for us? If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are experiencing a fundamental evolution in labor. We are moving from human effort functioning as the raw, brute force engine of a business to human effort functioning as the strategic pilot of the business.
I love that because building a 168-hour business is absolutely not an invitation for you to personally work 168 hours.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, it is the exact opposite. It's about leveraging digital co-founders and automated front-of-house systems to fiercely protect your team's energy. It is the architectural shift that makes realities like the 4-day work week not just some utopian academic theory, but something that is structurally sound and highly profitable.
It is genuinely the only way to deliver exceptional, consistent value across the globe without sacrificing the physical and mental health of the human beings running the organization.
Exactly. So whether you are catching up on industry trends for a board meeting, running a grassroots nonprofit, or trying to scale a solo venture from your dining room table, the objective is exactly the same. You need to build an infrastructure that deeply respects your time and works flawlessly while you sleep. But I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, something that pushes beyond the data we've discussed today.
What was that?
As we sprint toward a reality where digital systems handle all the routine, flawless, lightning fast interactions 24/7, will the rare, slightly imperfect, deeply quirky human interaction actually become the ultimate premium brand differentiator? In a world where perfect, frictionless digital infrastructure is just the baseline, maybe your humanity becomes your ultimate luxury product.